CTV. We're going to continue on this topic. Charles Kenny is a senior fellow at the Center for Global Development. He says he welcomes a new development bank on the international scene.
Well, one of the things I'm excited about is the idea of a BRICS bank. This is the idea that these countries will come together and they'll start funding their own infrastructure investment, increasing the amount they spend on infrastructure through the bank. And I think that is a very exciting model. Some people are worried, that'll take away from the World Bank or from the Asian Development Bank or from other regional institutions. I say the more the merrier. We've got $1 trillion deficit worldwide in developing countries on infrastructure. If the BRICS bank can work, that would help fill some of that gap. So I'm hoping to see a lot of progress on that during the summit.
When you think about the economic crisis, and you think about the expectations that were placed on a lot of these developing countries or big developing countries, but are the expectations fair?
Yeah, I think the expectations are fair, partially just based on what we've seen over the last 20 years. I think the expectation that we will see faster growth in some of these countries than in the United States or Europe is probably right, on average, over the long term. Now, on average over the long term is a nice safe line, right? There are lots of reasons to think that China, Brazil, India might see downturns in the next few years. I hope they come back. I hope they come back to strong growth. China achieved something that we've never seen before in history over the last 30 years in terms of its growth rate. Probably that won't continue forever, but hopefully strong growth will continue, and hopefully the same applies to the other BRICS.
Since you brought up China, they have been growing, but slower growth. The rest of the BRICS are basically almost flat growth now. I mean, there's some serious issues, but China still is 6, 7, 8%. People say, oh, it's been slowing, but it's still much faster than the rest of the world. Explain to us a little bit and put that into perspective. How relevant is that, and is China perhaps bucking the rest of the trend, if there is one?
China has been bucking the rest of the trend for a long time, right? We've never seen anything like what's happened to the Chinese economy before, and it's happened to the most populous country in the world, so it's had a massive global effect. The last few years, as you say, China's growth, along with a number of other countries, has slowed down a bit. Mind you, 6%, what would the United States give for 6% growth? We'd be delighted. So, it's still doing very well. I think it can continue to buck the trend for a while. There are many reasons why you might expect it to slow down. Banking is becoming a bigger issue in China. The number of non-performing loans in the Chinese financial sector is growing. There are all sorts of reasons why it might slow down, but then there are all sorts of reasons why it might continue to grow fast. And actually, I think Europe and the United States picking up a little bit, becoming a little less sick, is one more reason to think that China's growth might rebound itself.
Goldman originally said that the BRICS countries, the 5 of them, would ultimately overtake the current top 5 biggest economies around the world. Those are all sort of developed economies. Do you think the recent trends of a slowdown, does that change anything in that thinking?
I don't think that changes the thinking. I think it may make it take a little longer, right? But the fact of the matter is that these are populous countries. I mean, China is way bigger than the United States, and already in terms of purchasing power parity, when you adjust for how much things cost between countries, China is the largest economy in the world. So China's already taken top spot. India's probably going to overtake the United States in 20 years or less. I think we're going to continue to see this change. Whether it's as fast as we'd once hoped, maybe not. But I hope it continues to be quite a rapid change, because it's just great for the planet. And it's great not just for the BRICS, it's great for the United States and Europe. These are growing export markets, these are sources of investment, these are sources of new technology. This is great not just for India and China and Brazil, this is great for the United States, Germany and England as well.
Why is it good that a country gets bigger? I mean, what's the benefit of being a bigger country?
To the country itself, being a bigger economy, if you've got the same number of people, means people are richer. We all like being richer. We all like getting a pay raise, right? So it's good in that sense. It's good for the rest of the world because richer people buy more stuff. They invest more. They can support more works of art. They can support more scientists inventing new cool stuff. For all sorts of reasons, a richer world is a better world, and a richer world is a better world for everybody.
We look at the economic downturn. I want to talk a little bit more about Brazil, Russia, and some of the individual ones. Is there one of the BRICS countries that you're most worried about?
I wouldn't claim to be an expert, and I'd also say that most experts get this chronically wrong. Whenever they're asked a question like this, they say it's going to be this one, and then you look in 2 years' time, and it's a bit like, predictions of the World Cup. Everybody thought Brazil was going to win. My guess would be Russia, just because of the immense political uncertainty at the moment in that region of the world, and the amount that Russia relies on the rest of the world for export markets and for investment. So I would guess Russia, but I would say that I'm 80% likely to be wrong.
If you could add 2 or 3 countries to these BRICS, in other words, who do you think should be in the BRICS or could be in the BRICS in the next 5 years?
Well, I'd sort of go down the list of large developing countries I have hopes for, and Indonesia and Nigeria would be 2 I go to. Nigeria is going to become a more populous country than the United States by 2030 about. It's in a region that's at last started to do a lot better. Africa had, I think it was 6 out of the 10 fastest growing economies over the last decade. So at last we're starting to see Africa live up to its potential, and Nigeria, biggest country in the region. So if it starts to get things right, I think there's huge opportunity for everybody, for Nigerians, but also for the rest of the world to invest in Nigeria, to trade with Nigeria.